Hi, I'm Jennifer Daw here, your host today, and I'm very happy to interview my bestie today on something that she's talked a lot about this year. And this woman, because she makes so many things look easy and effortless, it's really easy to forget that she actually been through something very difficult in January, which resulted to losing the love of her life right before her eyes. And then on top of it, in March, the world started to fall apart, and she had to move out of the place that she actually built with the love of her life, on top of while not having the support he wished she would have had. And when you actually look at all of the top career life events that are difficult for a human being to go through, losing a loved one and moving out of a new home is always on top of those lists. So please meet Elizabeth Barry, author, speaker, coach, and with a long, beautiful list of life and career accomplishments, and one of them being a serial writer this year, which I admire a lot. And it also has been one of her solace and healing part of her journey. Elizabeth, thank you for being here today, and for being the light that you always are. But my question for you, the first one I'd like to start with is, how are you really?
Well, thank you. Well, I am good. I, I'll always make an analogy because that's one of my greatest things to do. I wasn't really prepared for any of these questions, so kind of like one of those holiday candies from your grandmother, right? You know, the ones that you nobody really liked, but they were always there, like the hard candy with the soft center. So sometimes I can be, I can come off really strong. I'm strong, but on the inside, my heart and my memories are very, very soft and they're nurturing. So uh, I'm good, and I'm good because I've been blessed, and one of those blessings has been to have friends like you who have supported me throughout the year. So I appreciate that. That's one of the biggest reasons why I'm able to today.
Yeah, and you have a beautiful surrounding, and lots of love coming your way. But like you're saying, like being a soft inside doesn't remove the pain you're going through. It's just more like acknowledging what's going on inside. There's something I want to read to you.
Okay.
On January 3rd, 2020, at 3:50 p.m., I got a text from you, and you wrote, "I need you. It's bad. Please answer." And then at 5:40 p.m., you texted me, "Jen, he is my angel now." And I remember talking to you in between those moments. And all I remember is wanting to make sure you were okay. Do I have to prepare to fly to the BVI? Is she okay? Because talking to you, I couldn't hear. I wanted to talk to you, but I couldn't hear what you were saying because you were in shock. Um, what do you remember of that day?
I'm glad that you have those memories and those texts because it's good to know from your perspective, because I remember some things and I don't remember a lot of things. What I can say is that I don't even remember having my phone in the room where they sewed my head up. Um, I don't even remember how I got my phone because I was rushed there after being in the water with my wetsuit. Um, I saw the boat. I heard the boat. I ducked. I
Mm.
waited to get hit. I felt the jerk of the neck. And I remember coming back up and thinking, "Oh, I'm okay. I just got hit in the head." And then I found my head open, and I saw, and that's when the shock happened. And there are certain things that are up and down in between, but it's a day of strength and resilience and complete and other, like you said, shock.
Mhm.
And I can just imagine how unintelligible my words were. or even if I got a word out at all.
Yeah, it was very and it's interesting because, we talk a lot and we share, and sometimes like, oh, it's bad, what does she mean? And then it just like started to be falling apart, and that's where it really was touching and really sad at the same time, and all I wanted is for you to be okay.
Mm.
And it must be really difficult because I remember like when you came back, you were sharing that story over and over again. So it's almost like ingrained in my brain of that moment in between, those times, what happened and the before and all the details. So, and it's very recent. So I commend you for going through that and going through your healing journey, even though it's not easy. And even in your book, Heaven on 11, one of your books,
Mhm.
that chapter about the hit is very short.
Mhm.
Much, there's nothing to be said, but there's everything to be said.
Exactly.
So thank you for sharing that.
Having letting me know the times too, because I don't the idea of time to me that day is not I don't know it, but now I know 3:50, 5:50. Interesting to know about the time and the length of what was going on.
Yeah, it's like almost like these moments, like it's slow and it's fast at the same time.
Oh yes, yeah, it was, everything was in slow motion, and yet it was so quick, and yet there's memories, and yet there's no memories. So it's a lot of a mix of emotion and it's really just the most difficult moment of my life.
I can only imagine. Have you ever been through anything else? Losing? No.
No, I mean, the hardest part of that day, what I can recall, was being in the hospital bed and asking about him,
Mm.
and knowing that he was in the room next to me. And I actually got in trouble as soon as I got to the hospital because we had to go in separate ambulances. They told me, I was like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Again, I was frantic. And I got in trouble because I went into his room. And then they had to like grab me and pull me back, and they hadn't even sewed up my head yet. And then the worst part was actually having to go when they told me, after sewing my head, putting the gauze on, and then having to take the gauze back off because the so-called police, which is not really our type of police, needed to take a shot, and they forgot. So that it was a disaster. It was an eerie, cold hospital. I wasn't treated well. And then they told me, and the doctors just lined up, and awful. And then going into the room was the hardest part, just seeing him there. And I had to say goodbye. I was in a wheelchair, and I just remember just being held up and talking to him. But that was the moment where I recognized that all of the things that I talk about spirituality, had come to fruition at that moment in time. I talk about spirituality, and I'm very spiritual all the time, and I believe in all of these miracles. And at that moment, it all came to fruition, to know that he was just a body and his spirit was still there. Like, I could feel his spirit, and I knew that his spirit had left his body. And that's when things started uprising for me inside of my own spirit, to fuel me to tap into the inwardness of where we all need to go during tragedy and loss.
Yeah, it must have felt like a very out of body experience, because knowing you, and especially during trauma, you were living an experience in your body. You were knowing what was going on in another, spiritual dimension. You were witnessing your work, what you talk about, but you were also living through a traumatic event. That must have been like, you must have felt very alone. And
I was so alone. I had never felt so alone, especially going back to our room. I had to sleep in our cabin on the boat for 2 days. That night, all I wanted to do, I remember, just put on his favorite shirt And he had told me, this is my favorite shirt ever, and it was the cutest thing. So I had his shirt, my head was wrapped in gauze, and I had the rocks that I had gotten with him that very morning. So it was really just an unreal experience, and very, very alone, but very just unreal, because you're with someone and then they're not there anymore. And the fact that I was run over by a speedboat when it was the only day that we didn't take the kayak, it's an insane story.
I mean, you talk about the sequence of event in your book. You can really see, like, you know, the signs, the before, the after. Like, you really talk beautifully about it, and it makes complete sense. But it's interesting how things make sense sometimes only after, and it's sense. In your chapter called Loss, you wrote, talking about loss, the feelings I felt when I walked through the quiet apartment at Heaven on 11 varied week to week. As I healed, I went from devastation to questioning, spirited to stifling suffocation, sadness to deeper despair. There I sat alone. There were many days when I felt as if I were left in the waters, drowned by the hit that I miraculously survived. Even though you moved out of that physical Heaven on 11 apartment, do you still feel that way sometimes?
What I felt in that apartment was an unreal experience. And what I was describing was this complete and utter loss, because we built that home together. And I was listening to a talk yesterday about rituals and creating rituals. And I was like, oh, I wrote about that in my book. So, and it was talking about how important it is to create rituals when you run to someone when they come into the house. And I was like, talking, and I was like, you remember that we did that? You liked it. You know, whenever he would come home, I would run to him with like my socks and almost fall to the ground, and me and 3 cats just running and jumping into his arms, and he would do the same, and he'd be like, I'm home. So though that energy did not leave the house, it didn't leave the apartment. And I was just thinking, as I did my hair for this interview, I didn't want to do my hair. I didn't open my closet for months. I actually couldn't do my hair because of my injury, but I didn't want to put on makeup. I didn't even want to get ready because I didn't want to look into the closet of the clothes that I shared with him. I just wanted to wear the same thing over and over, and none of my clothes, and just his, because it wasn't believable. And the alone feeling, I have been gifted with the presence of an angel. And as I've moved into a new place, I have some more breath here. The aloneness I don't feel anymore, but what I do say, and I say that because I've learned to work through it and be with an angel. And that takes 2 words. It takes honor and to celebrate the time that we had, to celebrate this angelic dimensional conversation, and to also honor his passage into heaven, which is so very important for me to do in my own healing process, to let something go and to understand its purpose in my life. Was very healing for me, and I know that that's what he wants. And it's all been miraculous over the last course of the year.
Yeah, and it's a year. Like it's, but it seems like it's so long ago.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about those moments where you didn't want to dress up, like I remember, like you were wearing the same thing, and it took a while before we got you to take a shower.
Yeah.
Understandable. Like it was just like, you know, your body didn't want to do anything. It was unbelievable. You had to go through that to, you know, process everything. It's very difficult. And in your book, you have your chapter about your WTF moments.
Yeah.
And you've had a lot of those when he passed. And now that you don't have him, and you also had those moments when he was alive a little bit, but you were able to resolve those moments with him in the moment. So now that you're having those moments, still, but different? Like, how does it feel to not being able to resolve with his physical form?
The best way that I can describe it is that I've been gifted with a chance to speak to an angel, and he has come to me, and you were there in the beginning. He goes through people, and I have had conversations with him through other people throughout the year. And these are people that I don't know that come to me and say that he's there. And we have several conversations. In fact, the last person that he came to, we had maybe a 4-month conversation. And then I got used to it. So at the end of this 4 months, I was just like always excited and waiting for the next conversation. And he's now at the point where he's guiding me. He's still the same funny, charming person, overlooking and saying, okay, Elizabeth, it's time for you to heal. We got to slow this down. So all of this angelic presence is just so very special. And for those of you who believe in it, I'd be happy to have a conversation. And for those of you non-believers, I will say that I know it sounds really crazy and I talk about it like it's real, but it is. And I've seen heaven, and I've seen God's work, and it's really miraculous that I've been gifted this. And I think it is one of the biggest reasons why I was able to heal and to rise and to be able to be where I am today.
And do you think it's a gift that you always had, or it actually, that event just like made it really like, rise up or open up?
I think I've always had the idea. I mean, I can see people's auras. I can read people very, very clearly. I have that sixth sense, but I never knew it was quite that big. And the people that are coming to me are also saying that I didn't know that I had this experience, but he is so powerful, and he's in like the 12th dimension, that he just rushes through because he wants to talk, and the things that we've said and the things that he said, and it's really just so miraculous. And again, I'm just so honored that I was able to have this gift. And he said he was so blessed that he was able to have the gift to talk to me. So I guess every angel is different.
Absolutely. Yeah, they all have their personality, but
Mm-hmm.
there really isn't no accident. I mean,
No.
But there really is no accident.
Yes. Yeah.
In addition to writing, like, what else kept your sanity going this year? Probably the ability to talk to him, but is that one of the things?
I think writing is the biggest thing. I got lost in every book. As soon as I got home, that's the only thing that I wanted to do, was because we were talking about it together on the boat. And then when I came home, it was the only thing that got me from thinking about what happened, because you play the experience of being run over by a speedboat at night at 60 miles an hour, 64-foot double engine speedboat, hearing that roar, being in a slick of blood in the water, watching someone pass away. That plays over and over and over and over. It's like a constant. It's like it's on repeat. The button doesn't shut off. So for me, I think the biggest thing was writing, having friends like you support me by just listening to me talk. And I thought about it as we're going through the fall, and I was like, thank God for Jen, because all I would do was just talk about him like he was here all year long. And just, I was on repeat myself. And then, 1 or 2 glasses of wine, and then the waterworks were there. So every single time we hung out, that's all I did was talk about him like he was here, like he was, it was just there. And then I would just cry. And then I would wipe the tears, and then everything would be fine again. So I think it's writing and the support from people like yourself.
What's really
to me over and over and over and over.
Well, it's got to be horrible. Like, and I've shared that with you offline after reading Heaven on 11. It's like, oh, Jen, how is it? It's like, I feel I've read your story because you've told me like everything in this. I know, like, it's just you sharing all the things that you shared, and you put it into a concise, piece of art. um, which is very healing. But like everything in the book is just all real, and it's condensed, right? Because reading it with the perspective of knowing everything that's behind, it's like, yes. And then you see like all the other dimensions within your book of what you really live that, and you're living your words, which is one of the things that you talk a lot about your work, but it's also that you're doing yourself, living your work, practicing, like we're all humans in progress, right? Yeah. So another thing, like you have a lot of friends, and you're blessed with, beautiful friends and clients who support you. So you've received a lot of love and random acts of kindness towards you all through the years. And especially at the beginning, it was very like a flow.
Yeah.
Is there any support that you wish that you had that you didn't have then?
The support that I had wished that I had back then has turned into what I wrote in my new book coming up. I'm calling it The Messenger Mindset. And it is where I talk to my readers about how everyone comes into our life with meaning. Everyone is a messenger, and every circumstance has a message. And in the beginning, I didn't have the support of a few people I can count on my hand. And as you saw some of it, we could describe it like a Twilight Zone episode, and it was unreal. It was like at 42 years on this earth, I never realized that people could actually act that way. And when I exhibited this behavior that you see in movies, like I see it play out in movies, and then I saw it in reality, and I thought to myself, wow, there really are people out there like that. So what I learned from the support, the lack of support from a few people, turned into something that I now teach every single one of my readers, every single one of my audience members when I give a talk, and every single one of my clients, of how not to be on this earth. And it also reminded me of why I am writing about kind communication. It's so very important in this life. And that was why my purpose has been saved, to continue this mission, to know that everyone that I experience that is not kind, or is projecting, or is just not nice, is a message for me to build on my own leadership skills as a human being, and use that to my advantage.
Absolutely. And it's not easy for everyone to see these things, because, regardless of what you're writing now, I find like every stages of our life, everything that we lived through the past becomes like a new learning. So you evolve as you go. So the fact that you've done so much work before this year really helped you elevate everything that you're doing this year. So it's not like, oh, one of a sudden I'm good at grief. And by the way, that there's no good or bad way to do grief. It's not what we're saying.
No. I mean, I'll probably cry after this video. I mean, I cried this morning. I mean, I have all of these ways of dealing, working through it.
And that's important too, because a lot of time we see you online and you're beautiful and shiny, and your joy, that you irradiate joy whether you're sad or not. And there's also the other side that, no, of course you're not going to show all the time, because we have to go through life, but you're using your tools, like you're utilizing, it's like, okay, I'm acknowledging all my sadness and my pain, but I still have to get up and go through life, because I can't, go down and down, because some people do go down, and it's really sad, and it's not wrong either. And what you're doing is very important, because that's an inspiration for other people too.
Yeah, and one of the biggest learnings from that is that when you don't have the support or love from a certain amount of people, and you feel broken from that, it is that breakthrough that when you finally get through that matter, that circumstance of understanding why certain people are the way they are, you recognize your own strength. And at that, there were so many breaking points throughout this year where I was on the floor and I wasn't well. And I will tell you that I can understand why people turn to pills. I can understand why people turn to alcohol. I can understand why people are depressed, because not only do your tragedies and loss and hurt break you down, but people break you down, and some of them do it on purpose, and that is that can be heart-wrenching. And I felt the lowest that I've ever felt in my life this year, and I've been able to work through that. And again, like you said, I've been practicing this work for 3 decades, so it's not like I'm a spring chicken in it, but it also is a reminder that the reason why I teach this work is that when we continue to become life learners and continue to evolve, even in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, we can still understand that we all need consistent work in elevating the spirit and our personal development on the inside and how we communicate.
Absolutely. I keep thinking about, I mean, not keep thinking, sometimes it pops up randomly, and the post that you wrote on December 28th, 2019, with a picture of you and your love.
Mm-hmm.
And you know exactly what you wrote, but I will read it again. The stars are aligned in the BVI. There are hundreds of them currently in the sky. Just after we swam for an hour over 100 purple fishes with snorkel gear. Every breath is a blessing, whether below the water or above.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about breath a lot because on top of everything you're doing, you also are yogi.
Yeah.
More practicing that power of breath. So my question for you, like, have you found your breath below the waters?
I have. And I'll tell you that yoga has been the gift for me to find that breath again. When I was able to do yoga again, one of the first things I thought about when I was hurt and injured, and I am injured, you know, I look okay. And you're one of the people who has been saying this all along. I look okay. I mean, my head was sewn up and my hair is growing back, but there is a serious injury here. And I wake up with a back massager on my back. And then I put the hot pack that you and Todd gave me on my back. I have icy hot, which I actually have a rash from right now because I was putting it all over myself and it didn't really agree with me. I have the electromagnetic little electrodes that I put on my muscles. And what else I can count? I can count it. I'm probably going to get a steroid shot. So I look okay, but I'm not. But the moment that I was able to do yoga, what I did since the accident, because I couldn't move my upper body, I worked on my lower half. So as I got into the springtime and to the summer, I really started practicing. And it has guided me through so much. And then I got my certification. But before getting the certification, healing through yoga was like breathing deeply for an hour every single day. If you breathe every day for an hour, you will heal, no matter what it is that you're going through. So although I was doing yoga, I was actually for an hour. And what that does is that it calms the nervous system. So I have found my breath. And although I lose my breath, probably, you know, almost once a day, maybe tears, cry, always happens in the shower, in the song, randomly throughout the day. But I have found my breath, and I will say through yoga and what I was told by a mentor in yoga is that I kept saying that yoga was healing me. And they said, Elizabeth, you're healing yourself. Yoga is just helping. So if that helps anyone in this that is listening to this interview, that anything that you do, sure, it's healing you, but you are the person responsible for healing yourself.
Absolutely. And it's very powerful what you're saying that, because it's what you do with the tools. It's not the tools that's doing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could talk about this forever. In closing, my question for you is, what would you have to say? What do you have to say to someone who has been through grief a long time ago or just recently?
I would say that I can feel the depth of the darkness in my stomach. I can relate to that. I can feel it right now. My whole stomach is just locked. I know the feeling of loss inside of the torso from this part where it's just air and it just feels like there's nothing there. I have wrinkles from crying for 5 months every day. So I understand anyone's feelings on the exterior from what happens on the interior. But one of the biggest things that I would say is that when I chose to honor my love's passage to heaven, it was that opened up my spirit to live myself on this earth, understanding that he's guiding me, he is not lost. And the words honor and celebrate, just use that as your mantra, because that is truly, truly one of the best tips that I created in this process for myself. And I hope that it's one or two of the things that you can use too.
Thank you for that. You also started by saying honor and celebrate. So it's beautiful that, that's how we're closing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your strength. I mean, you have so much to say about that. And thank you for being a beacon of light and going through your own process. Because when you go through your own process, another person is relating with you and they're going through their own process. You're helping other people going through their own process of it too.
Yes, I have chosen to take this tragedy and turn it into love for the world, as well as love for myself. And in turn, I'm on a mission to fulfill my purpose here on earth, which is why I believe I was saved, because otherwise there's really no reason why a 94-pound woman was knocked in the head, in the skull, by a 94,000-pound boat and is here. I have a purpose and I understand that, and I'm very, very, very grateful for that. Also grateful for you and your friendship, for everyone and their support, for the people who buy and read my books and believe in the work and actually do the work, and for my angel in heaven.
Thank you so, so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Love you.
I love you.
I wish I could be in person with you.